Good day, subscribers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am Jeremy. This is the Financial Education Channel, and today we're going to look at Apple possibly buying out Disney. This is like a rumor that started a few weeks ago by an analyst, and it's kind of picked up some steam now. And a lot of you guys have been asking me in the comment section what I thought about this and whatnot. So I figured, why not just do a video about it? And it's funny, it's kind of getting more and more attention now. And I saw Kramer, he did an entire segment on a CNBC show the other day about the Apple-Disney merger and how he thinks it's fiction and all this. We're just going to kind of look at it from a perspective. At the end of the video, I'll let you know if this is actually going to go through, if they're actually going to try to do it, things like that. But we're going to look at it and see, is this even like a logical acquisition? Would Apple even be interested in this? And the more I looked into it, the more I was like, this kind of makes some sense here, guys. This kind of makes some sense. So let's go ahead and look at this. So we've got Apple. Anytime there's a company that's going to acquire another company, right? You got to look at the other company's market cap because that's the valuation. So Disney right now has a market cap of around $180 billion, $179 billion to be exact. So the way you'd want to look at this is you want to think, okay, Disney would probably want at least like a 20% premium, right, on the shares. So that would mean that Apple would have to pay somewhere around $220 billion, probably minimum, if they want to actually purchase Disney company. So is that even a realistic possibility that a company could acquire a $220 billion company? I mean, almost never ever does it happen where a company over like $50 billion is acquired. Never mind a company over $100 billion. Never mind a company over $200 billion. But there's probably only one company in the world who might be able to pull it off, and it's Apple. So the way we want to view this is, we'll look at their balance sheet here. So they have $16 billion in cash. They have $44 billion in short-term investments. They have $185 billion in long-term investments. So strictly looking at the balance sheet, I say Apple could easily acquire this company. Now, we'll talk about how they would finance it in just a second here. But then we also want to look at the income statement and see what Apple's doing for numbers. They're doing $215 billion in revenue this past year. They did $45.6 billion in net income. So the way I look at it, Apple could easily acquire Disney, like without a question. They got over $45 billion in net income per year, and that's possibly going to rise this year. They've got a balance sheet that has $240 billion if you add up the cash and all the investments together. So they could purchase it just out of investments and just out of cash. Now, they would not do that. Apple would not do that. What Apple would do, they would put up about $40 billion of their own money, and they would take out a loan for about $180 billion, or do bonds or something like that. Apple could do that because they can get financing for just about anything. They're such a big company. They're so profitable. They have so much money that anybody will loan them pretty much any amount of money out there, guys. It's incredible. They would take out about a $180 billion loan, probably have to pay that back at a 3 or 4% interest rate. And that's not so bad. It's possible they could even pay it back in the 2s. That's how much power Apple has. Now, the other question would be, why would Apple want to do this? Well, let's look at some reasons here. So Disney, this is a company that, you know, Apple would be getting, and they would, in Disney last year, did $55 billion in revenue. They did, let's look at here, net income of $9.4 billion. So basically, Apple would be getting a company that has $55 billion in revenue this past year. They have around $10 billion in net income. That's possibly going to keep going up. So they're going to get immensely more profitable. So that would put their net income, assuming everything just stayed stagnant, Disney and Apple, and they didn't grow anymore, that would put the combined company net income around $55 billion. $55 billion. And then you look at their forward PE currently is about a 13.7, which is very, very low for market conditions right now. I mean, most companies right now have, most companies have an 18 to a 20 forward PE. Apple over here has a 13. And then if you add another $10 billion of profitability on that, that brings the PE down to about 11 or so, maybe even a 10. So huge thing. That's probably would be reason number one why Apple wanted to do it, just get more profitable and just become a bigger beast. But they got some other reasons. So Disney owns a ridiculous amount of brands here, guys. They own the ESPN brand, which is a monster in itself. They own ABC, one of the most popular regular channels out there. They obviously own all types of Disney networks, right? They own the Star Wars brand, one of the most powerful in the world. They own the Marvel brand, one of the most powerful in the world. They own the History Channel. They own Maker Studios, which is basically a network of a lot of big YouTubers are on and whatnot. They own A&E. They own Lifetime. They own a massive amount of content type networks that are producing content that gets seen by millions upon millions of people around the world every single day. Every single day. If not tens of millions of people every single day. So there's a few ways Apple would like to look at this. Apple might say, one, Apple's trying to kind of get in the content game, so Apple could launch some type of service that they could either make exclusive all those networks on their service, or they could just do a discounted price and kind of beat everybody out because a lot of people like those networks, right? And if Apple can be the one that can provide those networks at the lowest price possible because they own them, then all of a sudden you got something going on, and it's exclusive on Apple devices as far as that discount goes. So if you own an Apple device, you might only pay, let's say, $20 a month, and you get all these different networks, versus maybe you have to pay $35 or $40 on some of these other platforms if you have another type of device. So it would funnel even more people to some of the Apple products at that point in time, guys. So that's one way they could view it. Also, Apple could view it as all those networks, that's all a bunch of advertising. They could advertise on all those networks. They could advertise in shows, and it would be nothing. It wouldn't be like they had to get some written consent or something. Like, all those shows could be using Apple devices in them. They could be, when the commercials come on those shows, they can be Apple commercials on those. Apple spends probably over $2 billion per year. We don't know the exact number because in 2015, that was the last year they disclosed how much they were spending on advertising. At that point, they were spending $1.8 billion on advertising. So you could assume now in 2017, they're probably spending more than $2 billion on advertising, right? Because that number just kept going up and up and up. So tons of free advertising basically they could do on their own networks. Also, you look at these Disney park attendance statistics, they're ridiculous. Look at Magic Kingdom, over 20 million people visit it. Another park, 11.8 million. Disney Animal Kingdom, 10 million. Disney Hollywood Studios, 10 million. Disneyland in general, 18 million. California Adventure, 9 million. Tokyo Disney, 16 million. You look at all these parks Disney has, right? All these parks Disney has, it's a massive amount of advertising that Apple could do for free on its products throughout the park. We're talking about well over 100 million people per year go to all these different various Disney parks all around the world, right? Apple could have signage, in these parks, for the latest iPhone, the latest Apple Watch, and basically pay nothing for it because it's their own property at that point. You're talking about a lot of people, a lot of kids that are in a very good mood, and then they're seeing your advertising. It's probably a pretty good thing, right? I mean, you got a bunch of happy 13-year-olds and 8-year-olds and even a bunch of happy 30-year-olds here because, I mean, a lot of adults love Disneyland as well and all these places, right? You got them in a very happy mood. They see an Apple advertisement when they're already happy. That's probably some very good advertising there, guys, and they don't have to pay anything for it. So Apple could take its advertising budget from around, let's say it's around $2.5 billion a year currently. They could take it down to probably $100 million. They wouldn't even really need to advertise anywhere else because they have so many things they could possibly advertise on once you own Disney. There's like no reason to even advertise outside of those networks, outside of those parks, unless they really wanted to. So they would cut at least $1 billion to $2 billion off that advertising spend, which that money would then go straight to that net income line, So we definitely see there's some advantages to Disney doing this. Now, do I believe it's going to happen? Probably not. I really don't believe this is going to go through. I don't even know if Apple's really pursuing it because remember, it's just a rumor that's out there. So we don't even know if Apple's pursuing this. We don't even know if Disney would want this. And I'm not even convinced that Disney would want this. I'm not even convinced Disney would want to sell for a 20% premium because Disney is somewhat of a growth company. They got a lot of things going for them right now. They just had the Shanghai Disneyland park open this past year, which is supposed to be a profit beast for them. They're talking about potential of hundreds of millions of dollars of profit, maybe even $1 billion in profit per year come from that property over time. So they got a lot of growth avenues, So I'm not even convinced Disney would do it. I'm not even convinced Apple's really looking into it, but I see there's some possibility there. If they wanted to do it, they could do it, and it could be pulled off. Absolutely, Apple could acquire them. They could afford it. I just don't know if they're really going to do it, guys, but it does kind of make sense when you look at it. So that's my take on this whole Apple Disney thing, and that's kind of the way, in general, I kind of view a possible buyout candidate or something like that, guys. I follow literally all those things we look at. I try to look at it from a logical perspective of both sides of the company. I try to look at, is it financially possible? What's in it financially for each company? Obviously, Disney is just getting that money, and just getting those shareholders that extra 20% premium or whatever selling out. So that's my take on it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this today. If you just came across it, you may want to subscribe. We talk personal finance in the channel. We talk business. I'm an entrepreneur. I give away so many entrepreneur type tips. We talk the stock market, the most of everything, kind of like we did today. Thank you for watching, guys, and have a great day.